there is a crisis in your life, the body doesn't know the difference between what's actually happening and what's happening in your head. What's happening in your head is taken to be the absolute reality. And then you experience the emotion that goes with that kind of narrative. And so there's no awareness. And when you're trapped in that, you don't even really know that you're unhappy, because you are the unhappiness. The unhappiness has become your identity. So when you become the unhappiness, you don't even know that you're, or suffer, let's use the Buddhist term, suffering. When you are in this deep suffering, you don't even know you're suffering, because the suffering is a gigantic, huge chunk, part of your sense of self. You are a suffering entity. And as all therapists know, that once the patient or the client, or whatever they call the people that come to them according to their school, they reach a point where there's a possibility of going beyond the deep-seated patterns, unconscious patterns. And then there's a huge resistance very often, because the person is afraid of losing a very important piece of their identity, and sometimes it's the most important part of their identity. If they have lived with an unhappy sense of self for years and perhaps even decades, they don't want to let go. And again, they don't know that consciously. They never say, I do not want to let go. But if they could say that, then that means there's already some awareness. So lack of awareness, lack of presence, that is the unawakened state that still, unfortunately, millions of humans are trapped in that. But the moment you know, you recognize your inner state, that means there is an awareness, which there is another dimension of consciousness that has emerged in you, through you. A deeper dimension of consciousness that is not the conditioned thinking. So we can call it awareness, we can call it presence, we can call it the unconditioned consciousness. And then the beginning of freedom, or the possibility of freedom arises. And it's from there that you recognize your inner states as they arise. From there that you recognize your unhappiness. You can say, oh, you can feel the unhappiness. But the moment you become aware of suffering or unhappiness in you, you're no longer feeding it with your thoughts. As long as you're not aware, you're feeding it as a vicious circle. You're feeding it with your thoughts, with your narrative, and you're trapped in the vicious circle. Your narrative creates more unhappiness. The unhappiness creates more thought, and you're trapped in that. So for the next 6 months, and hopefully beyond, because it's a much more pleasant way to live, you make it your practice to be aware of your inner states, and meaning no matter what situation arises in your life, whether it's little things, big things, difficult situations, difficult people, challenges, problems, because the next 6 months are not going to be free of challenges and problems. So whatever it is, realize that the primary factor in any situation is your inner state, because that determines how you respond. So no matter what it is, your primary responsibility is to be aware of what goes on inside you.